so much of Brian Kelly's press conference was dominated by the Garrett Nussmeier torso injury news that there was a pretty significant nugget buried therein that probably got overlooked but bears mentioning and discussing here. If you've listened to this show or me for any length of time, you know that one of my general tenets is that while I do not believe coordinators are beyond reproach, I do not believe that they are flawless and immune from criticism or critique. I also, generally speaking, take a little bit more of a hesitant approach at critiquing or criticizing coordinators and play call because you and I do not know the play. We don't. You don't know what was called. You don't know if it was executed properly. You don't know what was called, why it was called, sequencing, all that sort of stuff. You don't know if someone checked out of it, if a quarterback checked out of a play, checked into something else, if they made the wrong read, if someone missed a block. Like, we don't know. There's a piece of that we do not know. So, and part of me has just come over the years to that understanding in talking to so many coaches over the 20 years that I've done this and understanding how little you and I know. Truthfully, like, we don't know. So, naturally, LSU starts the way they have. And it has been objectively not good offensively. There's no argument to the contrary. I know Brian Kelly was not happy Saturday after the game with that line of questioning, but I think it's also very fair to look and to realize what the numbers say. Through 3 weeks, you are 117th in the country in rushing offense. You are 113th in the country in scoring offense. You are 62nd in the country in passing offense. You have not been a productive offense through 3 weeks. That is a fair statement. So then the question becomes, why? Why are you not a productive offense? A lot of fans point the finger at Joe Sloan. Now, I'm not sitting here drawing a line in the sand and saying adamantly, Joe Sloan's the best OC, he's the right guy for the job, they're going to win a natty because of him. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's generally more to it than the lowest common denominator, the low-hanging fruit that the fan just likes to throw rotten tomatoes at. It's almost a default. Oh, the OC sucks. That's just the way people often go. And that's not at LSU, by the way. That's everywhere. That it is a common practice to just throw darts at the coordinator. Both sides of the ball, by the way. And in some instances, it's warranted. Matt House was atrocious. Bo Pelini was atrocious. Cam Cameron, I know a lot of people didn't like Cam Cameron, but a lot of that was Les Miles, who they were in lockstep together on what the approach was. So Brian Kelly was asked point blank on Monday his response to the criticism of offensive coordinator Joe Sloan. And I'm going to warn you, a lot of you ain't going to like this.
I had to answer questions of being critical with Blake last year, right? I mean, he is doing what he's asked to do to manage the games the way we need to play. We have a top 10 defense, I believe, in the country. And we need to play to that strength. And so sometimes you have to pull back a little bit here and there. He's being a great coach from that perspective. Because, look, offensive coordinator, they want to score points too. But sometimes I'm, tapping the brakes here a little bit in those situations. Because that's going to be the identity of this football team.
Brian Kelly said in no uncertain terms that Joe Sloan is doing what he is asked to do. Brian Kelly is telling you he is the one tapping the brakes. That the offensive coordinator wants to go, and Kelly, is the one tapping the brakes. And that's being a good coach because that's how they have to win. You can disagree with that. You can disagree with the approach. I could also look at what LSU did a year ago, where they threw it 60% of the time. They were 60-40 pass run. They were not balanced. Cole Kubelik came on this show in the summer, and while a lot of us, me included, spent a lot of time criticizing the run blocking a year ago, Cole said, how can you expect them to run if you don't run? You have to give them the opportunity to establish the run. In having a lot of conversations over this offseason, it is very clear that there is a mandate coming from Kelly and just within this offense that they are going to commit to running the football more. And they did that on Saturday night as well. And they've done it so far through 3 games. They're about 54% passes right now. So about 54-46 pass run. So they're still throwing it more than they run it, but it's much more semblance of balance. And remember, they have used a lot of the jet sweep action with the little shovel pass, the tap passes. Those count as passing statistics, but really it's an extension of the run. So take that for what it's worth. What for me is going to be fascinating is to see if and or when they do start to open this up. Because another thing Brian Kelly was asked, and this is part of my contention of why the offense has been what it has been through 3 weeks. I think you have faced 2 elite defenses in Clemson and Florida. Maybe by the end of the season, we'll look and say those are the 2 best defenses you faced all year. Maybe. And you've got a new offensive line. So we've talked about LSU not stretching the field, throwing the ball deep. I believe part of that certainly is you're protecting a young, inexperienced offensive line by getting rid of the ball quickly. Not exclusively, and we've gone over the Pro Football Focus grades. And this offensive line has done much better as a pass blocking unit than as a run blocking unit. Obviously, you see that. But also, if Nuss is getting rid of the ball quickly, you don't have an opportunity to give up sacks and pressures and hurries and TFLs and all that sort of stuff. So Brian Kelly was also asked, is protecting a young offensive line preventing you from stretching the field? Here's what he said.
No, I really, in answering your question earlier, I'm really pleased with our protection. I think it's a strength. The 2 tackles are really good. Their kick slide, their ability to stay square, those were really good ends. I mean, they're SEC top-tiered players on that defensive side of the ball. That's a rugged group, as good as we're going to see. They're rugged. Clemson was really good, too, and we protected the quarterback well. So it's not really about an issue, Koki, of we don't feel like we can protect them. I think it's more about, I think we're trying to be perfect, and we don't have to. Catch it, get it out, let's go. And a little bit more of that, I think, is what we should be about, and then we will be.
By the way, against Florida, and again, we went over these numbers already, but against Florida, if you look at the pass blocking stats, LSU's offensive line was good. Braylon Moore graded out an 83. Tyree Adams an 82.9. Paul Mabenga 75.7 as a pass blocker. Remember, a year ago, he was the one who gave up 6 pressures in that game. Like, he was dramatically improved. Weston Davis' pass block grade was at a 65. Josh Thompson was at a 65. The run blocking grades were where you had problems. And so that's a good thing. But I also do believe there's a little bit of you're playing it safe. And now eventually you're going to have to open this thing up. Now, one thing Brian Kelly said there at the end is sometimes you're thinking too much. And one of the questions he was also asked was about tempo. If maybe going tempo is something they should look at more, although you do run the risk of putting your defense out there even longer. But one of my contentions has been offensively, I do think they are doing too much. I think a lot of the pre-snap penalties is because you have so many motions and so many checks and all the sort of stuff you're doing. Sometimes you just need to go, call a play and go. And Brian Kelly said as much on Monday.
We felt the same way, right? That maybe we were trying to be too perfect, right, in our play calls. Let's just go play. Let those guys get the ball in space and play. And the same thing with Garrett. You know, doing a little bit too much, checking every play. He's so smart. I mean, he can manage the whole thing, but sometimes, you know, less is more. And I think as you continue to go, you know, into the 4th week, we're developing what that identity should look like from an offensive standpoint.
So why is LSU's offense struggling? You've got a lot of things at work. The very easy, low-hanging fruit narrative is blame the OC, which I know a lot of you are going to do, and there's nothing I can say that'll move you off of that point. So whatever. But I think there's a lot at work. Garrett Nussmeier with whatever the tweak and torso stiffness is, whatever. A young, inexperienced offensive line that you're trying to protect in spots by getting the ball out quickly, I think is part of it. The inability to run the football, be it because your offensive line is, I think they're a talented physical group. I just think a lot of this is they're still learning as 5 to play as 1. And a lot of these different components that you're trying to meld together here against really good defenses make it challenging. And you'd rather have those learning experiences in a win than in a loss. So against Clemson and against Florida, I think they did exactly what they had to do to win the game. Now, the next 2 weeks, I'm going to say this again. You're going to hear me say this a lot over the next 2 weeks. Southeastern, who you are light years better than at every position, and Ole Miss, who just gave up over 500 yards on their home field to Arkansas. If your offense doesn't get going against those two defenses, then I am going to be running to the panic button. Because unless if you can't figure out how to move the ball against those two teams, if you haven't improved against those two defenses, then you've got real, serious, legitimate questions that are probably going to limit what you're seeing. It's going to lower your ceiling. But teams are allowed to improve. And I think this team, this offensive line, this offense will continue to improve and get better. I can't help but think how dramatically different it would have been if week one you played Southeastern and then you played, I don't know, Ole Miss or Vanderbilt, and you had more of an opportunity to get better throughout that first month as opposed to being challenged the way you were just to make sure you won the game. Look at the contrary. A team like Notre Dame, who's sitting there at 0-2 right now, challenged themselves with two really tough opponents and lost. At Miami, close game. Home against Texas A&M, close game, but they're sitting there 0-2. Brian Kelly's team is 3-0 because they did what they had to do to win those games. Didn't look pretty, I get that, but they're 3-0. And now you have an opportunity in this spot on your schedule with the next 2 weeks in a bye to exhale a little bit and to start to improve offensively and put some of that improvement to work. See if they can do it. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.